Mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, we know so little about the ocean that we're always bound to discover something new. It's one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, but it has an unexplainable allure. And it seems like there are more mysteries down there than answers. And one of the biggest mysteries is the Bermuda Triangle. There have been disappearances of ships and planes in the area for hundreds of years, and we don't know why. It was given this name by Vincent Gaddis in 1964. And it includes the area between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. This region is where many aircraft and naval vessels have simply vanished without a trace, and all attempts to find out what happened have failed. Before we get into some of the stranger theories, let's look at what we know. There's no denying that things do go missing here. But how often? Well, according to the U.S. Coast Guard, they receive around 100 calls every year about missing vessels. They rescue around 28 people from the water. But this isn't anything out of the ordinary when you consider that this is a busy shipping lane. In fact, around 100 planes fly over the area every day. So why would something happen here and not somewhere else? It's important to note that the Bermuda Triangle is not actually a triangle. It's a rough area with loose borders. But we need to remember that the Earth is round. So technically, nothing can really disappear because it's always there. Something may be lost at sea or hidden beneath the waves, but it hasn't just disappeared. In reality, this whole thing started back in 1950 when a whole squadron of 5 U.S. Navy bombers went missing. Flight 19 took off from Florida, and their mission was to train. This was routine until they started getting lost. One by one, the planes ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. The next morning, a search plane was sent out to find them, but it also vanished. The following day, a second search plane was sent out, but it also disappeared. 5 men were lost at sea, and no wreckage was ever found. This is where the mystery began, and people started looking for answers. People came up with many explanations, and none of them made sense. Some believed that there could be a magnetic anomaly in the area. So if the compasses of the planes were malfunctioning, then they could have flown right into the ocean. However, scientists tested this theory and ruled it out. The only anomaly in the area is the large amount of shipwrecks. This unsolved case inspired many authors to write about the Bermuda Triangle. And soon enough, it became a pop culture phenomenon. People were fascinated by the idea that something could exist that science couldn't explain. And this brings us to the first theory. Number 1. The Triangle of Doom. If you've ever played the game Fallout, then you might be familiar with the Bermuda Triangle. It plays a significant role in the story. And according to the game, the real reason behind the disappearances is far more terrifying than we could have imagined. In the game, the Bermuda Triangle is known as the Triangle of Doom, and it's said that once you enter, you cannot escape. The Bermuda Triangle was originally supposed to be a highly advanced military base built by the Enclave. But during construction, it fell into the ocean, and now only the top part remains above the surface. Ever since this disaster, the area has become saturated with nuclear fallout. This makes it incredibly dangerous for anyone who comes too close. This fallout theory has a lot of fans, but it's completely false. There's no evidence of a military base or nuclear fallout, but there is something quite sinister in the waters. And that brings us to our next point. Number 2, disappearances, as I mentioned earlier. There have been many unexplained disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle, but there are 3 in particular that stand out from the rest. The first is Flight 19. As I covered earlier, 5 planes went missing and there was no explanation. But this wasn't the only time something like this happened. In 1941, another group of 5 bombers disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle. This was before radar was invented, so the pilots had to navigate manually. All 5 planes were flying in a V formation until suddenly 4 of them turned rates and flew into the ocean. The pilots didn't panic. They sent a distress call saying that they were lost and that they were going to start heading back. But then the transmission cut out and the planes were never seen again. But these aren't the only planes to go missing in the area. On December 28, 1979, a DC-3 was flying from Puerto Rico to Antigua when it vanished from radar. No wreckage was ever found, and there was no sign of the pilots trying to land in the ocean. We still don't know what happened to this plane or any of the passengers. But what about ships? Well, there have been many ships that have met their demise in the Bermuda Triangle. In 1918, the captain of the Titan saw a small boat in the distance, and he decided to go to investigate. But when he got closer, he realized that the boat was full of dead bodies. As he approached, more bodies started floating towards his ship. He quickly backed away and realized that there was something very wrong here. The next morning, the captain returned to the area and discovered a lifeboat that had been washed ashore. There were 8 lifeboats in total, and the bodies were still inside. Their names had been taken off of the boat, and nobody knew where they had come from. Of course, this isn't the only shipwreck in the area. There are dozens of wrecks in the Bermuda Triangle, and some of them are huge. The USS Cyclops was a large naval ship almost twice the size of the Titanic. It was loaded with manganese ore and bound for Baltimore when it vanished. On March 4, 1918, the last captain's log entry was perfectly normal. Everything was fine and there were no signs of trouble. But when the ship was due to arrive, the crew hadn't shown up and the ship was nowhere to be seen. The U.S. Navy searched for weeks, but they found no wreckage. And this is still one of the biggest mysteries in naval history. Some believe that the ship was lost in a storm, but this isn't likely because other ships were in the same area and they survived. Others think that it could have been pirates, but there weren't any known pirate ships in the area at the time. And that leaves us with one last possibility. Maybe the ship was carrying something that it shouldn't have been and it was taken by the government. But there's no proof that this is true. Number 3, theories and explanations throughout history. People have tried to come up with an explanation for the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle. But what are the strangest theories? Well, one of the most popular ones is that aliens are somehow involved. It's said that aliens live in the Bermuda Triangle and they lure ships and planes into the area. Then they capture the people and take them back to their world for experimentation. This theory has no evidence whatsoever, but it's still popular. After all, if we can't explain something, then someone else must be responsible. But we can't forget about the Atlantis theory. According to this one, Atlantis was located in the Bermuda Triangle and it sank beneath the waves long ago. When the island sank, it caused massive earthquakes and storms that destroyed any ship that got too close. Some believe that the energy released when Atlantis sank created a magnetic anomaly that disorients compasses to this day. And of course, there's the time warp theory. Some believe that the Bermuda Triangle is a portal to another dimension. And if you enter, you could end up in the past or the future. Maybe Flight 19 accidentally entered the portal and ended up in the distant future. But there's absolutely no evidence for any of these theories. Number 4, the unsettling truth. Do we really want to know the truth? What if the Bermuda Triangle is just a bunch of bull? That doesn't sound possible considering all of the disappearances, but it might be true. Maybe the reason why so many people go missing is because the Bermuda Triangle is actually a triangle. We tend to imagine it as being a specific shape, but that's not the case. The Bermuda Triangle is simply a term used to describe a specific area. For example, the Caribbean is a triangle-shaped body of water, but nobody refers to it as the Caribbean Triangle. Maybe it's time we stopped calling it the Bermuda Triangle. Maybe it's just the name that's causing all of the chaos. The fact that there is no real Bermuda Triangle could explain why the planes from Flight 19 couldn't be found. They probably didn't crash into the ocean, but they landed safely on islands nearby. Maybe they were captured by other countries, or maybe they simply ran out of fuel and made an emergency landing. Number 5. Scientists have studied the area for decades, and they have found anything to suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is anything other than normal. There are no portals, no alien activity, and no magnetic anomalies. But there are a few things that could cause some problems for sailors and pilots. For example, the Gulf Stream is a current that flows through the area and it moves at 4 to 5 miles per hour. This means that a ship could travel hundreds of miles in a very short amount of time. If a pilot misjudged the distance, they could easily end up in the Gulf Stream and be pushed far away from their destination. The weather in the Bermuda Triangle is also extremely unpredictable. Storms can roll in very quickly and cause a lot of damage. Ships can sink and planes can be blown off course. But even this doesn't explain some of the stranger cases. For example, why did the USS Cyclops vanish? Was it really a pirate ship? Why did Flight 19 turn rates and fly into the ocean? And what happened to the DC-3 in 1979? There are too many unsolved cases to ignore. Science might not have all the answers, but there's one thing that's for sure. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the most fascinating mysteries of our time. And maybe that S, what Vincent Gaddis wanted when he named it the Bermuda Triangle all those years ago. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed this chilling exploration, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more tales of malice and mystery. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and beware of the dark waters.
Deccan Picks.